Software Development Fundamentals, Exam Code 98-361. The vendor is Microsoft, and this is part 4 of the code review and preparation guide. Question 181. Your database administrator will not allow you to write SQL code in your application. How should you retrieve data in your application? Answer is B. Call a stored procedure. Question 182. You need to create a property in a class. Consumers of the class must be able to read the values of the property. Consumers of the class must be prevented from writing values to the property. Which property procedure should you include? B. Get. Question 183. Which of the following must exist to inherit attributes from a particular class? The answer is D, and is a relationship. Explanation. Visual Basic has been a pioneer of binary code reuse. Controls being the classic example. You reuse the code in a control by placing an instance of the control on your form. This is known as containment relationship, or a has a relationship. That is, the form contains or has a command button. Question 184. How many parameters can a default constructor have? The answer is A, 0. If a class contains no instance constructor declarations, a default instance constructor is automatically provided. The default constructor simply invokes the parameterless constructor of the direct base class. Question 185. You have a class named truck that inherits from a base class named vehicle. The vehicle class includes a protected method named brake. How should you call the truck class implementation of the brake method? A. MyBase.brake. The MyBase keyword behaves like an object variable, referring to the base class of the current instance of a class. MyBase is commonly used to access base classes that are overridden or shadowed in a derived class. Question 186. Which type of function can a derived class override? The answer is A, a protected overridable member function. The overridable modifier allows a property or method in a class to be overridden in a derived class. You cannot specify overridable or non-overridable for a private method. Question 187. Class C and Class D inherit from Class B. Class B inherits from Class A. The classes have the methods shown in the following table. A has the M1 method, B has the M2 method, C has the M3 method, and D has the M4 method. All methods have a protected scope. Which methods does Class C have access to? Well, since Class C inherits from Class B and Class B inherits from Class A, Class C should have M1, M2, and M3, which is answer choice D. Question 188. You execute the following code. For I equals 0 to 100, if I mod 2 is less than or greater than 0, Then also write line hello and if. Next, how many times will the word hello be printed? Answer is B, 50 times. So the less than or greater than is another way of saying equal. The mod modifier or the mod operator computes the remainder after dividing its first operand by its second. All numeric types have predefined remainder operators. In this case, the remainder will be non-zero 50 times. Those are all the odd numbers. Question 189. The purpose of the finally section in an exception handler is to C. Execute code regardless of whether an exception is thrown. By using a finally block, you can clean up any resources that are allocated in a try block, and you can run code even if the exception occurs in the try block. Typically, the statements of a finally block run when control leaves a try statement. The transfer of control can occur as a result of normal execution of a break, continue, go to, or return statement, or a propagation of an exception out of the try statement. Question 190. You are creating the necessary variables for an application. The data you follow or the data you will store in these variables has the following characteristics. Consist of a number, include numbers that have decimal points, require more than 7 digits of precision. You need to use a data type that will minimize the amount of memory that is used. Which data type should you use? D. Use double. The double keyword signifies a simple type that stores 64-bit floating point values. Precision is 15 to 16 digits. Question 191. You are creating a routine that will perform calculations by using a repetition structure. You need to ensure that the entire loop executes at least once. Which looping structure should you use? D. Do while. In do while loop, the test is at the end of the structure, so it will be executed at least once. Question 192. You execute the following code. Breakable Boolean is true. Flame on Boolean is false. iResult is integer. So the select case for breakable is true or false. And if it's true, then it goes into select case for flame on. If it's true, then the result is 1. If it's false, then the iResult is 2. Then if the case for the breakable is false, then it's going to go into the case for the flame on. What will the variable result be? It's going to be B, 2, because it will go into the breakable is true, and then go into the flame on is false. Question 193. You are creating an application that accepts input and displays a response to the user. You cannot create a graphical interface for this application. Which type of application should you create? A. Web-based. Question 194. You are creating an application that presents the user with a Windows form. You need to configure the application to display a message box to confirm that the user wants to close the form. Which event should you handle? D. Form closing. The closing event occurs as the form is being closed. Question 195. Which type of application has the following characteristics when it is installed, runs continuously in the background by default when the startup type is set to automatic, presents no user interface? C. Windows service. A Windows service runs in the background and has no interface. Question 196. You are creating an application for a help desk center. Calls must be handled in the same order in which they were received. Which data structure should you use? A. A queue. Question 197. In which order do typical phases of software development lifecycle occur? A. Requirements gathering, design, development, and testing. Question 198. You need to create an application that processes data as a last in, first out basis. Which data structure should you use? A. Stack. A stack implements LIFO. Question 199. In the application lifecycle, the revision of an application after it has been deployed is referred to as B. Maintenance. Question 200. This question requires that you evaluate the underlying text to determine if it is correct. The duplication of code so that modification can happen in parallel is known as separating. The answer is B. Branching. So the duplication of code so that modification can happen in parallel is known as branching. (201) Hotspot. For each of the following statements, select yes if the statement is true. Otherwise, select no. A linked list has a maximum of 100 nodes. The answer is no. You can add new nodes anywhere in a linked list. The answer is yes. A linked list can be sorted. The answer is yes. Question 202. Drag drop. You are developing an application that displays a list of race results. The race results are stored in the following class. The code that manages the list is as follows. You have the results class, and you need to implement the add race method. Match the code segment to its location. You can drag the appropriate code segment from the column on the left to its location on the right. Each code segment may be used once, more than once, or not at all. So here we are. We have code segments, current.faster, current.slower, current.time, and current.race, and they need to be inputted in the answer area. So here's the answer. For public add race, while current.time is greater than time, current equals current.slower. And you end the while. And rsr.faster equals current.faster, and rsr.slower is equal to current.slower. Question 203, hotspot. You are reviewing the architecture for a system that allows race officials to enter the results of 5K race results. The results are then made available to students using a web application. Use the drop-down menu to select the answer choice that answers each question. So to minimize the time between when a race official records the result and when the results are available in the web, which part of the system is critical? The satellite link. To increase the number of students that can access race results, what element should be added to the system? A web application server. Question 204, hotspot. You have the following flowchart. Use the drop-down menu to select the answer choice that completes each statement. Each correct selection is worth 1 point. And the answer the value that is returned is 100. The value of A is 70. Question 205, hotspot. You are reviewing the following code that saves uploaded images. For each of the following statements, select yes if the answer is true, otherwise select no. The bytes that comprise the images are stored on the stack. No. The length of the image data is stored on the heap. No. The ID of the image is stored on the stack. Yes. Question 206. The following functions are defined. What does the console display after the following line? Printer 2. B is the answer. 211. Question 207. The throw keyword is used to perform which two actions? Choose two. A and B. Stop processing of the code and move error handling to a separate thread. Question 208. Drag drop. You are developing an application that displays track and field race results. The application must display the race results twice. The first time, it must display only the winners and runner-up. The second time, it must display all participants. The code used to display results is shown below. So you have a display method, and it goes through for each ranking in rankings. True, display the name. And then it goes for each ranking in rankings. False, display the name. You need to implement the ranking O function. Complete the function to meet the requirements. And to answer, you drag the appropriate code segment. And here's the answer. Oh. In the iterator function rankings, top two only as Boolean, as IEnumerable string. The yield is Johnny, yield is Nancy. If top two only, then return. And if yields Chris. Question 209. You need to debug a Windows Service application by using breakpoints. What should you do? A. Write all events to an event log. Question 210. What does the console error property do within a console-based application? Answer is D. Gets the standard error output stream. Question 211. This question requires that you evaluate the underlined text to determine if it is correct. The default entry point for a console application is the class method. Select the correct answer if the underlined text does not make the statement correct. Select no changes needed if the underlined text makes the statement correct. So the answer is B, main, because the default entry point for a console application is the main method. Question 212. How does a console-based application differ from a Windows Store application? Answer is B. Console-based applications do not display a graphical interface. Question 213. Hotspot. You are creating a Windows Store application that uses the following gesture. Use the drop-down menu to select the answer choice that completes each statement. The gesture shown in the graphic is called swiping. The surface display after the gesture has completed is called app bar. Question 214. This question requires that you evaluate the underlying text to determine if it is correct. Convening an object to a more general type is called upcasting. The answer is A, no changes needed. Question 215. You are developing an application that tracks tennis matches. A match is represented by the following class. Match has properties, location, and match date. And the location is set to unknown. A match is created by using the following code. Match equals new match with that location equal north region. How many times is the location property on the newly created match class assigned? The answer is C, 2, twice. One when it's instantiated and the second when it's redefined. Question 216, drag drop. You are extending an application that stores and displays the results of a variable type of foot races. The application contains the following definition. The following code is used to display the results for a race. The content of the console must be as follows: 99 seconds, 1.65 minutes, 99. You need to implement the foot race class. Match the method declaration to the method body. So, foot race inherits from race and implements iDisplay results. So, display is overridden, and it right line seconds. The display raw inherits from the base class and displays that way. And the display that implements iDisplay result.display and writes seconds out of 60 and says minutes. Question 217. You have a class named glass that inherits from a base class named window. The window class includes a protected class named break. How should you call the glass class implementation of the break method? B, window.break. Question 218. You have a base class named tree with a friend property named color and a protected property named number of leaves. In the same project, you also have a class named person. For each of the following statements, select yes if the statement is true. Otherwise, select no. So methods in the person class can access the color property. Yes. Methods in the person class can access the number of leaves property. No. Methods in the tree class can access all private properties in person. No. Question 219. Hotspot. You are developing a web application. You need to create the following graphic by using cascading style sheets. Use a drop-down menu to select the answer choice that completes each statement. Each correct selection is worth 1 point. So, for the CSS style sheet, background image, you should use the value linear gradient to bottom, green, black. For the CSS style border radius, you should use the value of 10 pixels. Question 220. You are writing a web application that processes room reservation requests. You need to verify that the room that the guest has selected is not already reserved by another guest. Which type of programming should you use to determine whether the room is still available when the request is made? D, server side. What is displayed when you attempt to access a web service by using a web browser? A visual depiction of your preliminary connection to the web service. Question 222. This question requires that you evaluate the underlying text to determine if it is correct. When creating a site to utilize message queuing, the IP address must be configured to MSMQ. The answer is B, protocol. Question 223. You are migrating several HTML pages to your website. Many of these pages contain HTML, center, and font tags. Which XXHTML document type declaration should you use? Answer is A, option A. Question 224. Which three phrases are advantages of connection pooling? A, B, C. Reduces load on the server, improves performance, and reduces time to create a connection. Question 225. You are creating a database for a student directory. The student table contains first name, last name, email, telephone number. Which statement will retrieve only the first name, last name, and telephone number for every student listed in the directory? So you're going to select first name, last name, and telephone from students so that would be A. Question 226. What are two advantages of normalization in a database? Choose two. A, B. Reduces schema limitations, minimizes impact of data corruption. Question 227, hotspot. For each of the following statements, select yes if the statement is true, otherwise select no. An entity relationship, or ERD, is designed for an object-oriented database. No. An entity relationship diagram contains entities, relationships, and attributes. Yes. Cardinality refers to how one table is linked to another table as one-to-many. Yes. The question requires that you evaluate the underlying text to determine if it is correct. The benefit of using transaction when updating multiple tables is that the update cannot fail. Select the correct answer if the underlying text is not. Make the statement correct. Otherwise, select no changes needed if the correct underlying text makes the statement correct. The answer is B, succeeds or fails as a unit. So the benefit of using a transaction when updating multiple tables is that it succeeds or fails as a unit. Question 229. You are creating an application that presents the user with a Windows form. Which event is triggered each time the Windows form receives focus? A, load. Question 230. What are the three basic states that a Windows service can be in? It can be in running, could be in stopped, could be paused. You have a Windows service running in the context of an account that acts as a non-privileged user on the local computer. The account presents anonymous credentials to any remote server. What is the security context of the Windows service? B, network service. Question 232. This question requires that you evaluate the underlying text to determine if it is correct. The answer is B, string array. Arguments are passed to console applications as a hash table object. String array are passed to console application as a hash table. No, it's string array. Arguments are passed to console application as a string array. Question 233. You have a SQL Server database named MyDB that uses SQL Server authentication. Which connection string should you use to connect to MyDB? Answer is A. Data source equals MyDB, integrated security equals SSPF, initial catalog sales. Question 234. You need to create a stored procedure that passes in a person's name and age. Which statement should you use to create the stored procedure? A. Update procedure store data at username at age. Question 235. You are developing a database that other programmers will query to display race results. You need to provide the ability to query race results without allowing access to other information in the database. What should you use? A. Add an after update trigger on the result table to reject updates. I would place the query into stored procedures. Question 236. This question requires that you evaluate the underlying text to determine if it is correct. A piece of text that is 4096 bytes or smaller is stored on and retrieved from the client computer to maintain state is known as B, cookie. Question 237. Which programming language is characterized by client-side, dynamic, and weakly type? JavaScript. Question 238. This question requires that you evaluate the underlying text to determine if it is correct. IIS, or Internet Information Services, must be installed on the client computer in order to run a deployed ASP.NET application. B, computer that hosts the application. Question 239, hotspot. The ASP.NET MVC page lifecycle is shown in the following graphic. Use the drop-down menu to select the answer choice that completes each statement. So, the controller event determines which action method is needed and then calls that method. The URL pattern is matched during the route event. And last question of this part 4. Question 240. When a web service is referenced from a client application in Microsoft Visual Studio, which two items are created? A and D. A stub and a WSDL file.